Welcome, Sister Adenika. How are you? We'll start in 5 minutes. Thank you for joining. Thank you for the heartney. Thank you. J Wells, welcome in. Welcome, Sister Adenika. How are you? We'll start in 3 minutes. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mind Matters. Today, we're looking at, we've been looking recently at gaslighting and the different techniques of it. So, we discussed about what gaslighting is, and then we've talked about emotional redirection as one of the techniques used. We've also talked about delayed information, which was last week, which is one of the techniques used in gaslighting. Today, we're going to be talking about misinformation as a tool in gaslighting. However, tonight, we're not talking about feelings, we're not talking about time, we are talking about reality distortion, because that's what gaslighting is about, to distort your reality and make you feel guilty for something that you actually didn't do. Not loud distortion, by the way, the kind of distortion that is subtle, very, very subtle, the kind that doesn't make you cry immediately. It makes you hesitate. And hesitation is where destabilization begins because your whole system becomes destabilized. And one thing we could do for this episode, I would like you to do is to take one slow breath because we're about to enter the territory of memory. Yeah, the territory of memory. So the question most of you will be wondering is what misinformation is, or what misinformation in gaslighting actually looks like, or what it means. Well, misinformation in gaslighting is not simply lying, because misinformation, maybe you are lying about it. It's not just simply that. It is strategic contradiction, selective memory alteration. It is confident denial, and it is persistent reframing. The sweet thing about it is that I say sweet because it's sweet for those who use it, who do it that way, is that it is delivered calmly. When they deliver it, it's so calm, right? It is also repeated consistently, and it is asserted with confidence. Welcome, Malait and Rachel. Thanks for joining. Um, yeah, it's asserted with confidence. And confidence psychologically is persuasive. So when someone is talking about something with confidence, you tend to be persuaded by what they're saying without generally worrying if it's a lie or not. Even sometimes when this information, this thing doesn't sound true, or it's too good to be true, or you still find that you lean towards it a little bit more than not. Let me give you a real life scenario of what this might look like. Big Seven, welcome. So you say to someone, maybe your loved one or a partner, you say, "You told me last week you would handle it." And they respond to you, "Nope. I said I'll think about it." You see, the difference is subtle. But that subtlety, that subtle revision creates cognitive friction. Now, let me tell you what cognitive friction is about. When we talk about cognitive or cognition, it has to do with your ability, your thinking faculty, your processing faculty. That's what we're talking about when we talk about cognition or cognitive function. Now, when there is friction on the other hand, we know friction is all about when things are battling against each other, and it's not a smooth ride. There's some sort of roughing up. So imagine combine the two, your cognitive friction. That means in conjura, things begin to kind of don't look like what they should be, and your cognition is not working properly anymore. That is what the subtle revision creates. It creates friction in your cognition. Welcome, Mercy. Now your brain must begin to ask the following questions, not necessarily in order, but you just ask this question: did I mishear? And then you begin to think, oh, did I assume? Maybe that's not what he said. Or did I fill in the gaps? That's another thing you might be looking at. That friction accumulates. That's what happens. It accumulates, and it leaves you doubting yourself or hesitating. Another real life scenario I can give you. Let's look at confident denial. This is an example of confident denial. So you say to your loved one, you raise your voice, and they respond calmly, I didn't raise my voice. You see, the thing here is that tone matters, right? And calm denial destabilizes more than aggression because your nervous system expects aggression to signal conflict. Calm contradiction signals authority. So it's kind of like you are disarmed. But are you disarmed for the right reasons? Maybe not.
Hi.
Hello, hello, sister. If you could please
Hi.
mute as you join in. If you have, I'll come to anyone having questions to ask or any contribution to make. Now, uh, scenario three will deal with memory overwrite. Okay, so that is rewriting your memory. And this is the way that will go. So, for example, you say to your loved one or somebody significant, that conversation was intense. And then they reply to you, you are rewriting history. It was normal. Now you are not debating events, you are debating interpretation of reality. And that's deeper, usually deeper than you expect. So it's one thing you're trying to pass a message about, and then they change the title of what you're trying to pass a message about so that now the discussion is not even about the message anymore, it's about the title. But then again, how does the brain process memory? Because this is very important. We need to understand how our brains function. It is why when we started this episode of Mind Matters, we started from back to the basics, trying to find out how we were all built, how our brains were built. So the way our brains are built is the way it's going to process our memory because the memory we acquire as we build that as that brain is being built, that's what's going to filter the processing that we're going to have. It's the base for it. If you missed all the other episodes we've done, starting from back to basics, where we looked at foundation, walls, windows, roof, and all of that, please visit our YouTube channel at Mind Matters 2125, and you have all the episodes there for you to listen to carefully. When you want to listen to it, be sure you are not near noise, so you'll be able to process it further. So, how does your brain process memory? This is very important because memory is not a recording device. It is simply constructive. It's reconstructive. It reconstructs because the thing is there, and then it starts building back from what it is. Hence, why it is reconstructive. Now, every time you recall an event, what your brain does is that it rebuilds it, it reinterprets it, and it integrates emotions. And this is what gaslighting exploits. It exploits this process. And you begin to see how confusion sets in. Because when someone confidently contradicts your memory repeatedly, your brain begins to do what? It begins to soften certainty. So what you used to feel you are sure this is what happened begins to change. You begin to doubt that's actually what happened. And then it integrates their version. So what they are saying to you will begin to register in your memory that, okay, maybe that's what happened. And then eventually it will replace edges with ambiguity. So those places that you really aren't sure about, or you feel that, okay, so for example, you're sure about something that, okay, this thing happened. Whereas there is one part you want to clarify to finally confirm that. You see, it replaces that with ambiguity so that now The whole process is not even clear to you anymore. Welcome, Kanye Kocho. The whole situation is not clear to you anymore, and confusion sets in. So then you lose confidence in your retrieval. You don't lose your memory, by the way. You just lose confidence in your retrieval. So the memory you're trying to retrieve, you lose confidence in it because you're already doubting it, whether it's the real thing or not, whether what they've said to you is actually what happened, or maybe you thought it wrong. Now, that distinction is what really, really matters. That distinction is very, very important. Let's do a little bit of thought to bring it into perspective. This is, I call this the memory stability test. So, without typing any details, just ask yourself, think of a recent disagreement you might have had with anyone, and ask yourself, do I remember it clearly? Or do I remember their explanation more clearly? Notice which one feels stronger. No judgment, no judgment, just awareness. Like I always say, awareness protects. If you are aware of how something works and how it manifests, it helps you better when you are addressing issues around that subject matter. So, no judgment. Just notice which one feels stronger. What actually happened as you remember it, or what their explanation of what happened is, which is different to what you know happened. Which one do you remember strongly? I'll give you a minute to think about that. Hello, Montana. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Seki, welcome. Thanks for joining. Welcome, Sister Ademika. Do you have something to say, or shall we continue? Okay. Can we mute Sister Ademika? If you can mute for a bit. All right. So now let's look at the power of confidence, because everything seems to hinge on confidence. Gaslighting misinformation works because humans equate confidence with accuracy. I'll take that again. Um, Sister Ademika, can you please mute? Hello? Sister Ademika, if you please mute, I can't mute you. So if you can mute for a bit. Sorry, guys, bear with me. I'm trying to figure out how to handle this.